All right, with no further ado, Tracy, let's jump right in. So, as always, we like to start with a little bit about the background. Like, what did it look like, and how did you arrive at where you are today, having this massive impact on the world in such a beautiful way?
So it feels like two different questions. How am I making this massive impact in this world in this massive way? I bet on myself again and again and again and again, and I am a byproduct of my own work. How I got here was a lot of dark nights of the soul, becoming a single mother with my daughter at 8 months old and not anticipating that happening, and then losing my mother at a very young age and understanding that life is fleeting and it's probably a good idea to really do something with the life that you have. Climbing the corporate ladder and being a VP of HR for 12 years and following that, I did everything they told me to do. Why is my soul dying? And then finally being still enough to hear my soul and tap into that calling of the true meant for more, which I know is such a familiar shared sense for so many of us, right? Like I did all the things and now I'm here, and aren't I supposed to like feel a certain way? Or isn't this the moment where the confetti pops off and the trophy happens and I made it? And it was the complete opposite of that for me. And that thrusted me into taking a look at, well, what is that more? If I feel this calling, if I know that I've done all the things, but I am not satiated, and I know I'm not allowing myself to be utilized to the fullness of the vessel that is Tracy Litt, what does that actually mean? Because I'm also I like things to make sense. That's important for me. So I started researching every kind of helping modality, from social work to psychotherapy to hypnotherapy and everything in between. And that's when I stumbled upon the personal growth and spiritual development industry. Like, you don't know something's a thing until you stumble upon it and you're like, what is this place? And as soon as I started connecting with it, I was like, oh, hi, this is me. This is exactly who I am, where I'm supposed to be. And then I, enrolled in coaching school after being paralyzed to do it for 2 years. Started studying risk and fear and the nervous system's relationship to fear, and launched my business in 2017 and never looked back.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. There's so much I want to unpack here. And oh my gosh, where do I begin? Okay, so you talk about arriving at the top of the ladder, if you will, and
Yeah.
then knowing in your soul that you feel called and that you're meant for more, and having the guts to take that leap. You talk about, how am I having this impact? And you said, I do the work. So those who've been listening to my podcast for a long time, I think they know what we're talking about here. But just in case that someone's new to the show, when you say I do the work, talk me through what that means for you. And when did that begin for you? Because I do believe we're conditioned to just sort of keep powering through, just keep hustling, keep striving, and everything is external. And once we get there, then we will feel and all the things. And so I know what it means to do the work, but I'm curious, like, what does it mean for you? And when did you start to quote unquote do the work?
Yeah, such a good question. So I want to say this because it's important. The big shift that goes on once you've woken up is the lie that we were all conditioned to believe: the outside creates the inside. Meaning, when this finally happens, then I'll finally feel. When I lose 10 pounds, I'll feel sexy. When I make $2 million, I'll feel successful. When my kids act a certain way, I'll feel like a worthy mother. When my spouse XYZs, then it's basically a life of conditional happiness. And that's the lie. The truth of the truth, and this has now been proven in the study of quantum physics and the study of neuroscience and everything worth listening to or reading in personal growth and development, is that the inside creates the outside. And that's I would say, the underpinning paradigm that must shift to support everything else that means doing the work. Because if we're wearing the goggles that say the outside create the inside, you're done. You are now limited. It is what it is, and you're going to constantly be chasing for something outside of you to happen, to feel a certain way, and that is actually victimhood at its finest.
Ooh,
Waiting for something to change outside of you to feel something different inside of you is victimhood. And that you shared matters, because It's, oh shit, so it's me, and it's time for me to love myself enough to be honest about where I'm at and what I really desire and what I'm really done tolerating and who I really dream of being that I might not say out loud. Yeah, because, and this is the gift of what I shared about my mother dying. I was 24, she was 51. That was such a gift to me, to squeeze the juice out of life, to not, like, you're gonna die. What are you doing? Which is one of my principal teachings, right? None of this is real and we're all gonna die. The amount of times I say that to my clients, but it's true. So how do you leverage that to actually get to the end of your life and feel satisfied? Not because everything you wanted to happen happened, because sometimes it doesn't, because it might not actually be your highest good for certain things you think you want to happen, but for you to be able to take your last breath and be like, I slayed. I showed up, I evolved, I grew, I pushed my edges out, I bet on myself, I was expressed. I think that one of the biggest shifts on top of that underpinning paradigm we get to make is redefining success for ourselves, right? And I know for me, like, living a life of success is to be alive and to get after it, because I don't understand any other way of being but that, actually.
I love it. I
Um,
love it.
so in terms of doing the work, because it's really important for me, for your listeners to understand the practicality of the work, that it's not just some like airy fairy thing far away from us. So once you understand that the inside creates the outside, or you're at least willing to like experiment with it, you then start to step into your power in a different way. And something I want to say, because it came through in your question, I didn't, and this is what makes my work so powerful now, I didn't research all that stuff, find the coaching school, take the leap, and ride off into the sunset. I found the industry, knew like I knew in my bones it was exactly where I was supposed to be, found the coaching school, and did nothing for 2 years. Paralyzed. Paralyzed. On Monday, it was at IPEC, great coaching school. I love them to death. On Monday, I would talk to the admissions director and be like, okay, I'm going to do this. How much is it again? $10,000. $10,000 as an adult to go back to school? This is crazy. I had never spent $10,000 on myself. Now I've spent probably $1 million on all of these types of things, but I did nothing. And then on Wednesday, my mind would say things like, who do you think you are? What if you suck? Stay in your job. And then on Friday, I'd be like, no, this is me. I am meant for this. And I would tell my sister. And then on Tuesday, I would shrink back down and be like, but what if people judge you? And what if you can't get your job back? And I gas braked myself for 2 entire years. And then finally, in another gorgeous dark night where her, as I teach it, right, my highest evolved self came through and basically said to me what I now teach, like, you can't die like this. You know that this is for you and you need to move, right? And that's when I finally trusted that, enrolled, and then manifested a layoff from that corporate job 4 months later. But then what it really gifted me, which was the gift to all of you, is I started obsessing over what was that? How could I feel so pumped, so aligned, so ignited, oh, yes, and do nothing? What is that? What is that though? Not like understanding it theoretically. What was happening in my body? Why biologically could I not move? How can you feel pumped and paralyzed at the same time? So I started my own studying outside of the coaching curriculum that I was learning, and I started studying risk perception, the biology of fear, and nervous system relationship to change. And that's when I truly cracked the code. That's why my TED Talk is called Dear Fear, It's Not You, It's Me, because I understood. What's the actual answer to that? Oh, because my nervous system is freaking out. It doesn't feel safe. And until I learn that change happens at the speed of safety and how to give my body what it needs, I'll never move. And now that's a huge part of RIP.
I love it. It's so much of what you said about losing your mom young. I had I lost five of my close friends before the age of 22. So same thing. Like I've always had this, if not now, when. And
Yeah,
it doesn't mean I have the audacity to take action immediately either. It's just that like that meant for more being called forward and then second guessing. And I love how you called it, I gas braked myself for 2 years. That's so, so well said. And like, how can you be pumped and paralyzed at the same time? And I'm kind of curious, do you ever find when you're working with your clients that they just get frustrated because they're like, no, I need you to just tell me what to do. And you're like, no, it's not about, yeah, you're going to do a lot once you shift who you're being,
yeah.
but it's an inside out job.
It
And
is, but here's the amazing thing about my work, Erin, and I am going to so toot my own unicorn horn. I do tell my clients what to do because I crack the code. Here's something that bothers me about this industry. So many things, but one of the things is there's so much inspiration and there's so much information, but there's very little proven practical application. Although I am inspiring and I'm grateful for that, it's not even me. Like I'm the vessel, it comes through me. I am fully aware of that. To me, my biggest actual responsibility is to show you how step by step, because then you're going to do it and you're going to get the evidence of it. And then you're going to be like, oh, damn, I know exactly how to give my system safety. I know exactly how to non-judgmentally observe what's going on. I know exactly who my next level is and how to let them lead. Oh, and I know how to do it before there's anything in my reality. That's the structure of the School of Becoming. And the reason why I call it a school is because I'm finally teaching you how to do all of the things neurobiologically and energetically that nobody ever taught you how to do. And not in an energetic, the way people might say woo-woo, because I don't like that word at all, because spirituality is science, but more like here's how you cultivate your ability to notice what's happening in your body and behaviorally. Here's exactly what you do next and interrupt that pattern because that's a pattern of the old identity. Here's how you then make it safe in your nervous system in real time. Here's how you bring your future self out of the quantum field and let them give you an answer and go do it. And that's what makes the work so powerful, is because I do. I just had a call where I taught this, the last module of Neuro-Identity Evolution, and the women on the call were like, this is like so simple. I was like, yeah, I told you you were going to, I'm not cracking any codes here, meaning this isn't open heart surgery. It's not easy though, because
right.
the crux of the science of transformation and the part that makes it not easy is when your system, your cells are aroused by the familiarity of your current identity and the emotional addictions and the ways of being and the stances we take that are reflective of the things we believe in our worldviews. And when that part of you is so aroused and turned on and you need to make a new choice as the evolved version of you, you need to be hella committed to who you say you're becoming.
I love this.
Right? You can't be interested, you have to be committed.
Totally. So do you feel like when people find you, they're ready for you?
Sometimes yeah, and sometimes no. Such a good question. Sometimes I have so many beauties in my world that are like, I heard you, I ran, I like literally unfollowed you, I couldn't handle it, I wasn't ready, I unsubscribed. And I love that journey for everybody. I'm like, great. But then I couldn't take it. And I was like, fine, I finally need the work that actually gonna work. Okay, I'm ready, I'm gonna go do it. So sometimes right away, there's like a resonance and like a let's go. And sometimes there is the nervous system of the individual is so disinterested in being anywhere near me because the work represents such inevitable change and they're just not as ready as they thought they were.
Well, that's what I wanted to unpack a little bit is this nervous system regulation factor, because I feel like there's a reality in which people have been so conditioned and are so used to operating from a dysregulated nervous system, a state of overwhelm, stress, uncertainty, overperforming, overfunctioning, perfectionism, all these things. Like their battery has been at 5% for as long as they don't even know because it still works. So giving from an empty well has just become their superpower. They've mastered it, or so they think. And
You're a
so how do
genius.
you even
Exactly.
get, like, how do you even get someone to recognize when whoa, 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 whoa. This is so not working. You are not okay. You know what I mean? Like it's just,
Yeah, I do. And you're so smart because you just nailed it gorgeously. Two things. And I highly recommend anyone else who is this in the world of transformation only works with the willing. Don't even try to not work with the willing. Just don't do it. And people come to their own willingness via catalyst or choice.
yeah.
My deep desire is they come by choice because they start to understand as a spiritual, energetic being having a human experience that their divine moral responsibility is to grow, is to expand, is to answer the objective of their soul. So you can either come in because you heard this conversation and something ignited and you're like, oh, hell yeah, that's what I'm doing here. If I'm not growing, I'm dying. Or you can wait for a catalyst, which will also happen, like cancer or divorce or loss of a loved one or losing a job or finally smacking your head against the same wall so much that you hit that moment, which is a profound moment of change. I'm not knocking it. The moment where you are so fucking sick of yourself that you're like, okay, fine. I am willing to realize I am the cause of the effect and I am the common denominator of my life, inclusive of career, money, relationships, etc. And I'm going to double down on the only thing that's ever going to give me an ROI, which is me.
I love that. It's so funny. We speak the same language. How you said catalyst or choice.
Yeah.
I always say desperation or decision. Like either desperation affects change or a
Yeah.
decision, but you could decide now before you're desperate at any time.
Yes. Yes.
It's like the inkling within you is like this little whisper that keeps on flicking you. And you're just like, until the whisper becomes a roar, which is typically the catalyst, right? Or the
Yes.
desperation.
Exactly.
And when you talk about all of this stuff, like waiting for the catalyst and, maybe it's the divorce or the loss of a loved one or the job loss or whatever, or you make that choice. This is kind of a random question, so I'm just going
I
to lay
love
it
all
out
your
there.
questions.
How many of your clients have to blow up their life after they meet you?
So funny. So, this is such a real question. It's such a real question. And there are multiple different results that happen. Some of them do have to blow up their life in the context of they outgrow everything and everyone that they had currently built their life around.
Yeah.
And they're ready for it because I also guide through that. Because it would actually be really weird and abnormal for the thing that's in the for the variable that's in the center of the experience, right? You're the variable inside your life, your marriage, your parenthood, your business, your podcast, like all these things, right? So it would be nonsensical to think that the variable that is you could grow and shift, but that everything else around that variable stays static. It doesn't even make sense. That's what I'm saying. Like, I need things to make sense. It's how my brain works, which is why the way I teach lands, because I'm just going to give it to you in a way that's going to be like, oh, that's it. Yep, that's it. You got it now. Let's move on. So when the variable shifts, everything in accordance to that variable scientifically must change in reflection to the variable shifting. So what happens is either people, places, and things, kind of the timeline expires, right? It was a season, it was a moment, and it's time to move on from it. Or things grow around you in the most miraculous way because you were patient enough to let them grow and evolve at their pace, not your pace. And this is important. And actually, this is exactly how my story went with my marriage and my husband. At first, I was very righteous about the work. I was just like, if he was being negative or because he's on his own journey, I'm giving you this example, everybody, because this is what not to do. Okay. I would just be like, don't you know you could change your thought and have a totally different feeling? Don't you know that you could breathe a little bit differently and you would clear that out of your body? Like, just know, okay? But this was like the first year of my journey, the one right after I left and I was studying everything. So I still had not untethered, I hadn't evolved out of my judgmental identity because I was highly controlling, highly hyper-independent, and highly judgmental before I became who I am now. So then once I realized all that and I started to do my own work on myself, I was like, okay, you know what, Trace? And this was an inspiration from a Ram Dass quote that I heard that's my favorite. the best thing that you can do for me is work on you. And the best thing that I can do for you is work on me. So I was like, I'm just gonna stay in my lane and I'm gonna triple down on my own evolution. And loved him dearly, and we had great, everything was fine, but I just didn't try to get him to do anything or be different. And then year and a half later, also notice I didn't say 2 weeks later, year and a half later, I'm sitting outside in the backyard journaling, and he just walks up super nonchalant, like, all right, fine, what are you doing? What is that? Tell me. Self-selecting, asking. And then that turned into more conversations, and then that turned into him going to a men's retreat, and then that turned into, right? So now we have a conscious marriage, and that grew as a result of me as the variable changing. So either can be true. Either you move on from things that were in your life before, right? Or maybe your personal life stays really well, but the business that you built needs to change dramatically because you built it around your adaptive behavior. You built it around who you used to be. And that's something that has to, quote, get blown up or shifted, right?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the fear factor, right? Because when our soul says, let's expand, and our mind says, whoa, 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 I got, my job's to keep us safe here, and safe means same. And we don't like change and all the things. And so, but the soul's, hey man, I really want to expand. And the brain's, no, what are you nuts? I feel, at least in my own experience, if I can, I often refer to life as a video game where you win that level and then you feel called to the next level, but you're like, man, I don't know how to play the next level, but we just have to get in the arena and play, right? And in that journey in the human experience, I feel like with each level up, there's a little bit of a painful crumbling or shedding that has to happen to experience joy in that new level. And it's not always a smooth transition, right? Well, we talk a lot about the butterfly, like the caterpillar has to actually dissolve and die
Yeah.
to become the goop that's the food for the butterfly to emerge and be able to soar thousands of miles, like its full potential, right? But life is like a series of death and rebirth. So of the identity, and
Yeah.
it's it's hard. It's not always easy. It's not always pretty. And sometimes those transition phases make you second guess the expansion before you've gotten to the pleasure of it, right? If that makes sense. So
Yes.
self-sabotage and we go back. No, no, what are you nuts? What are you nuts?
Yes.
We were safe back there, you know?
Yes. You're so fabulous. I just need to say that to you. You're so fabulous. You get it,
Thank you.
girl. You get it. There's only one solution, and it's a very fabulous one. You're just listening to your mind. I like to call it you're being your mind's bitch, and that's the problem. Because your mind is the most untrustworthy part of this journey.
Yes.
There's two places of truth. One is your relationship to your body, and the other is your relationship to this thing that's bigger than you. I like to refer to the thing that's bigger than me. My belief structure is God in the universe. For you, it might be universe, might be God, might be Jesus, might be source, might be greater intelligence, whatever your jam is. Love it all. The mind is untrustworthy. The mind works on behalf of your nervous system, not your vision. And your nervous system, to the beautiful thing you just said, which is completely truth, your nervous system is wired to see anything unfamiliar as unsafe. Therefore, the only way it perceives that it can keep you safe is to ensure you stay the same. And what it does, as soon as you think about or start to move outside of your zone of familiarity into that beautiful unknown, which is in fact where all of the potentials and possibilities live, your nervous system then activates your fear response, and your fear tripwires your fear border patrol. This is how I teach this whole process. And the fear border patrol activates all of the limiting thinking in your mind. And it starts to drive the thoughts like, what if you suck? Who do you think you are? I'll start tomorrow. What if they don't buy it? What if this doesn't work? What if it's too much of a stretch? What if I have to blow up my life? What all the things that kept me gas braking, the only reason why I know that my experience was so intentional on behalf of everything in this world that needed me to teach this work, because the only way I could teach it so profoundly is because I lived it and sat in that gas brake for 2 years. Right? So then I was like, okay, wait a minute. So then if we realize that the highest truth is that we are the consciousness that holds space for our thoughts, and that we are not our mind, and that our thoughts are options, not facts. So your heart beats, your eyes blink, and your mind produces thoughts. That's just what's happening today and every day. And when we can get really, really masterful at not believing what we think and recognizing that the thoughts that are being default populated all day long are coming from fear, ego, and past experience. And that if we listen to fear, ego, and past experience, we will never get closer to expansion and vision and possibility. Then we stop believing our thinking and we learn how to rewire our thoughts by letting the person in our vision think intentionally on our behalf.
I love that. It's so I have pages of notes because you're so eloquent with the way that you speak. Sometimes it's like poetry in the way that you articulate some of these things. And when you talk about thoughts being options, not facts, and I know you can relate to this, but I'm curious how you would articulate this for the listeners, is that when you are willing, like you said, to start to be receptive to this, and what I've experienced in my own journey of what I call the unbecoming, right? Unbecoming that outdated version of me that was like overconnected, overcommitted, overwhelmed, stressed, rushing, externally focused, achieving all my goals and feeling completely empty inside, right? So I had to dismantle all of that to be able to start to expand and become, right? I can look back now having received, or let's just say research, study, whatever you want to call it, but there comes a point where what we're talking about is not logically understood through the brain. It's received at the soul level. And once you feel it and you experience it, you can't unknow it, right?
Yes.
And then once you've gotten there and you start to experience it more frequently, you're like, wait a minute, can it really be this easy? Can it really be this good? And then you can look back and see where you had those seasons of life. Like you're saying, what a gift to have that gas break experience for 2 years. You can see where things were hard and where your thoughts were like a perfect reflection. Your thoughts were in uncertainty, stress, striving, and your reality was a perfect match.
Yeah.
How do you help people understand that when maybe they're in the beginning of this journey and they don't yet have the experience of, are you telling me this could be easier? Are you telling me I can follow my heart and it's actually going to take me to this beautiful, extraordinary life? Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Because like maybe I haven't tasted that yet. So I need it to feel hard. Like,
Yeah. Well, there's so many. We could have a 3-day retreat on this one question because number one, part of the outside creating the inside has cultivated this society of hard and constantness, and it being hard is connected to our worthiness and achievement. And it's like the harder it is, the more worthy I am, the more I prove myself. I had to work hard for it because not so many of us, every single one of us is in our unworthy identity until we understand its biological lie and we allow ourselves to realize the truth of our wholeness, and that the fact that you're born, your birthright is you are whole, worthy, and lovable, like period. So the first piece is understanding how conditioned we are for hard. And also some of it is epigenetic. We don't live in our great grandparents' world anymore or our grandparents' world, but that was fucking hard. Okay? This is not hard. Let's be clear. Okay? Which also is just a conversation in and of itself. But there's conditioning and things get dripped down. In my first book, Worthy Human, I talk about it as the drip process. So like your great great grandmother dripped into your great grandmother, who dripped into your grandmother, who dripped into your mother, who dripped into you. And now you're here in the consciousness revolution where we're having out loud podcast conversations about stuff like this. So you choose. It's your divine moral responsibility to be like, I'm going to change what's being dripped right now, because the drip is inevitable. It's what is being dripped into the generations that come after us. That is the choice that we very divinely have to make. So that's the kind of just hard rant that I want to acknowledge, because I've helped a lot of women shift from hard to easy. And it feels so challenging because our nervous systems are so conditioned to work hard, right? Which is even the stuff like that Kathy talks about in abundance and receptivity. It's wait a second, like I don't have to earn my face off. I can just receive. And it doesn't mean absence of action. It's
Right.
just a whole different way of being as you're moving towards something.
Yes,
So,
totally.
so that's the hard thing. In terms of the other bigger part of your question, number one, little wins are important, right? Because we need to create new evidence for that person. Like you're saying, I'm willing, I'm here. I think I'm willing to believe what you're saying, right? But I'm willing, which is great. It's kind of like going to yoga for the first time. If you've never gone, I don't know, are they gonna make me stand on my head? What is this? But I'm willing to put the clothes on and go with you. Fine. Then we got to give that person a win. We got to make sure they hit Warrior One or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I do enough yoga to sound smart about it, but I'm not really that smart about it. So making sure we're giving, and I do this a lot, micro moments, right? Like how can we create a micro moment win where you just like notice something about yourself and help yourself pause instead of react? Like helping someone move from reaction to response is a beautiful first move, right? And all that's well and good. But the higher answer that's asking to come through is trust. And nobody trusts until they learn how to embody trust.
Mm.
Because every single one of us operate on the spectrum of control, which is what makes everything stay feeling so hard. And nothing in the imprint of your the current imprint of your nervous system wants to even hear me, because it needs the hard and it needs the control in order to feed itself and continue to affirm the current identity. And trust is is the truth, that if you in fact believe in something bigger than you, which I'm going to make the assumption that every single soul listening to this conversation right now would say, I absolutely have faith. Great. But the funny thing about faith is that when you need it, you never call on it.
Mm.
I watch this happen all the time. It's like when rainbows are out and unicorns are in your backyard and your kids are perfectly behaved and your spouse did the laundry and what is happening, and you like killed that launch and everything. You're just like, yes, I believe. But then when you're on your knees and shit is just awry, we forget this relationship with this thing that is so much bigger than us and so much more powerful, that's just waiting for you to stop and
Mhm.
surrender so that it can conspire and reorganize and do the things. So the highest answer is, how willing are you to shift from control to trust?
So powerful. It's so powerful, and it's such a wild practice. And I'm so glad that you spent some time with us and our audience today, because
Love it.
like when you understand this and you play with it, you can catch yourself in control and then remember, why do I think this is my job? I am going to leave this up to someone who's got a little more power than me. I'm going to surrender today. And you know what? Today is not the day that I'm going to stress about that. I'm just going to have faith. And then all of a sudden, something happens, right? It's like the client shows up out of the blue. Like the moment your nervous system calms, you become available. And all of a sudden, there it is. And it's like hilarious, because then you're like, wait, could it really be this good? Could it really be this good? And then the
Yes.
better it gets, the better it gets. And it's just,
Ah,
I'm so obsessed with it. I just want to scream it from the mountaintops. And I think like people that have been with my podcast since 2018 are like, okay, but give me the tactics. I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, the tactics that you apply from a place of clarity, alignment, and surrender will be so much more exponentially impactful than anything you apply from this energy of control and fear and scarcity. So like, we all need to lighten up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. That's why none of this is real and we're not getting out alive,
Yeah. Which is
right?
another
Like,
thing you said. Oh my God. I was a keynote at a real estate event over the weekend, and I literally said the same thing. I was like, none of us are getting out of here alive. So let's just have a little fun. I love that.
true.
Oh man, you're so amazing. I feel like it might be too soon to say I love you, Tracy, but you are something. You are
I
something special.
receive
And I'm so
that. I
grateful.
receive that. Thank you, thank you. I
Thank you so
love
much
you
for
too.
taking the
You're
time.
you're really you're like, I love this conversation. You are just so spot on. You get it. You get it. You get it. You get it. And that is such a joy.
It's it is a joy. It is a joy when you get it. And it's a joy to share this light and this message with others, because to see others become unlocked is unbelievable. Imagine the ripple effect and the impact to this world of if more people could live in and move with ease and calm and love and impact and connection and presence. Like what that is what we are all craving more than anything, any AI strategy out there, right? Like it can't hold a candle to this level of connection.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, yeah,
Yes. And oh, that's what it's about when you do the work of you, right? When you choose to evolve, everyone has a center of influence. I'm not talking about being an influencer. I'm saying everyone has a center of influence. Whether your center of influence is your kid's volleyball team, your center of influence is the person you're standing behind in the grocery line, the center of influence is the car in front of you in traffic, the center of influence is your team, the center of influence is your children, is your spouse, is your sister, is your aunt, is your upline, like whatever business you're in, right? Whatever you do in the world, as a human being, we're all, rather, an energetic human being, we're all putting off an electromagnetic field. And people feel our energy before we say a word. And that is what starts the ripple effect. So it's already happening. You're already influencing. Hi, that's the truth. What are you influencing exactly? What are you dripping exactly? Agitation, frustration, resentment, not enoughness? Or are you dripping love and patience and empathy and possibility? I have three daughters in the college age range. I deeply, deeply give a shit that everybody chooses the second one
yeah.
because that's what makes us change the world. You don't change the world by going, let's change the world. And I'd love it to be like, let's start a nonprofit and we'll change the world. But that's not what actually changes the world. Energy changes the world. And
Mm.
individuals that evolve, that elevate their frequency, change the world.
So good. So good. Okay. Because I want to respect your time. Otherwise, we could go on for days. Talk to me about all the exciting stuff on the horizon and just ways that people can get into your orbit and into your world. If you could share all the things that would be relevant for our listeners who are in love with you right now.
Thank you so much. The first thing is we have an app. The School of Becoming has an app and it has everything inside of it. So go to wherever you download apps and download the School of Becoming app. The app is free. You put in your information and then you get access to some free resources that are really cool, like weekly frequency shifts from me that are like quick audios to just zhuzh you right up, and the key private podcasts and stuff like that. And then there are two really killer things happening right now. So the Real Thing, which is a new guide and companion video training that I just put out, talking about the 7 truths that coaches, practitioners, leaders of transformation, leaders of sales teams, leaders of executives need to learn in order to be able to more effectively help their people grow and be a more profound coach and mentor. And then Irreplaceable, which is a 1-day virtual intensive that I'm holding on May 14th, where I'm actually teaching advanced skills to basically any person that works with people, is the easiest way to say it.
Awesome. And where they would find that through the app, or how
Oh,
do they?
if you download the Real Thing is on the app and you'll be able to download it there. And also, on our website, theschoolofbecoming.com. And then once you get the Real Thing, you'll start to get all the information for Irreplaceable.
Okay. And are you active online anywhere? If someone wants to
Yes,
tell you how
Instagram.
much they loved this.
Instagram. I am the only person in my DMs. Come talk to me on Instagram. I love it. At the Tracy Litt, and it's the TracyLitt.
Awesome. Yes. I always encourage the listeners, if you had a takeaway, make sure to reach out to Tracy so she knows that you were listening
Yes.
and that she had the impact that she's had, because I know if you're like me, you're probably feeling really fired up and inspired to go run through a brick wall right now. Let's fucking go.
That's right. That's right. Amen. I love it.
All right. And also, it would be really thoughtful if you had any takeaways here is share this, send this, text this to somebody that needs to hear it. Check out Tracy's podcast and share her show with others, because the ripple effect is real, and the impact that you've received from being here during the show can be shared and paid forward and in a beautiful way. And as always, if you haven't stopped what you're doing and leave that 5-star review, I beg you to please do it, because how else are people like Tracy going to say yes to me? We need more reviews, guys. Come on. All right. I love you guys. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.